welcome back to Inside the Minds of Authors. If you are joining us this morning, and today has been an amazing day, we have some incredible authors so far, so we're going to continue having a blast. If you're new to the podcast, go ahead and subscribe. You don't want to miss a single episode. We are here to bring you passionate authors with brand new books. So can't wait for you guys to join our community and continue to share along. If you want to know us live, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can put a comment in the chat so I can know where you're here, where you're coming from, what are you thinking of the books. And if you're watching the replays, just give us some love and tell us what you guys think. Because you guys are here to meet our guests, I am excited to introduce you to our debut author, Mr. John Ford. Hello, how are you, darling?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me on. It's gonna be fun to have this conversation with you.
It's a pleasure having you on the podcast. I'm excited you're here. And I'm going to turn it over to you now so you can introduce us to the book and do the reading. So, all yours.
Okay. Yeah, my name is John L. Ford. I write in the genre of science fiction. Um, this is my book. The cover here, um, Dominion, and actually that's the cover. I gave you the back. So there we go. Something like this. And this is a project that came to me actually a lot of years ago, around 2005 or 2006 is when I conceptualized this idea. And I actually came to me while I was driving en route to some destination, had NPR. And NPR was doing one of their science segments, and they were talking to this doctor, whom I can't remember his name after all these years, but he was a neurophysiologist from India. And what he was presenting in that radio program that during that show was this discovery, these organelles in the um, human brain called microtubules. And I mean, I could get into a lot of scientific stuff that might be a little bit boring for the setting, but there was a lot of conjecture going on in the actual radio show discussing what these purpose these serves in nature, because pretty much everything biological in nature serves a purpose. I mean, otherwise it just doesn't exist. That's what the law of life is. I mean, so why would these nanoscale protein filaments that look like, kind of conic in shape be affixed to the synapses of the human brain, and we don't know why they're there? Meanwhile, I'm like, being the scientific kind of person that I am, always having these visions and ideas about science and why things work. I'm always constantly postulating to myself what could be positing rather to myself what could be the cause behind certain things in nature and what the relationships are between them. Um, I think if you're going to be a science or science fiction writer, and that probably comes natural to you. Anyway, I was immediately overwhelmed with the idea of what goes on. I decided that,
John, I think we have lost your audio. Are you still there?
oh, that,
No. I don't know what happened. I've had you and I can't hear you.
okay, hold on, let me try something.
Okay. Okay. I think he'll be right back, everyone. So hopefully he'll come back and join us. I don't know what happened. It is live, so things like this happen all the time. So hopefully Mr. John will be back and we'll go from there. So in the meantime, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you guys are enjoying the podcast. I hope you guys are having a great time with us and you guys are getting to listen to some incredible authors. Oop,
Is
he
that
is
better?
back. Yes, I can hear you now.
I had to I had to exit and rejoin. As somebody who's in software engineering, these kinds of things happen. It's like
It,
sometimes with Teams or Zoom, you have to do these things. I
it
apologize, ladies, gentlemen.
it's okay. So what we're gonna do now, since we're already in the middle, if you go ahead and just kick off with the reading, we'll ask you questions about the
Okay.
book, and let's just go from there. So let me turn it back to you so you can start the reading.
All right. Well, I have an idea of what I want to read here. I just need to I had it all set up here, and of course it slipped, so I have to find that again. I'm sorry. Okay, just bear with me for a moment. I'll be right there. Okay. 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 So what I wanted to do is I just wanted to read from the chapter The Fugue, um, chapter 14, The Fugue. This is after the inception part of the technology for the novel, and they had already developed the technology, and they were trying to install language rudiments first so that they could interact with it using language. Um, and so I'll just start here and read this. Immediately, the monitor partially filled with text. Help, topic awaiting instructions. MMP matrix requesting primary protocol for initialization of communication matrix. This can be manually entered or automated. Enter start code, drive, start, read, stop, begin, process. His peripheral attention was then drawn to a manila folder, placed conspicuously nearby, upon which was written, so to make certain he saw it prior to his current stage of reinitialization of the system. Colton, inside is the disk containing MMP algorithms for rudimentary language. Recall our conversation. This is automated upload. Best of luck, Norm. He quickly reached down, tore it open, and 5 circular discs refracting the lab light in subtle colors fell out onto his hand. Other than the numerals 1 through 5 written with a Sharpie, they had no other markings. Jesus, he thought, it's almost like he wants this more than I do, he whispered through a nervous snicker. He gently laid the first of the 5 discs into the slot and pushed the button to close. Typing in the directory path along with command encoded instructions, pressing the carriage return caused the monitor to hurriedly flit complex images similar to blueprints of chip designs, as well as algorithm syntax components of programming language, all of which was to fully all of which was filling the screen. Certitude seemed to be ever rarefied these days as he sat in front of the monitor. More blinks blinked on the terminal. Language instructions hybridizing with logic that he did not recognize. He assumed this to be proprietary in nature with the MMPs. MMPs, they're designed. This is in the book. They mean micromutable processors, is what they are. And if you read, it's in the book what those actually, how those are, what those mean, and what they're used for. So either way, he did not like the fact that he did not know what was happening. This was not part of his original posit. Nevertheless, this went on for a while as the monitor would pause. Please enter disk 2. Press enter to continue until the last of the disks had been processed. He was not completely aware of the passage of time, nor did he experience any sense of weariness. He sat in front of the monitor and briefly covered his face with his hands, then slowly ran them back through his wavy hair. The distant, sterile technological hum of the plant faded to pure silence, and upon opening his eyes, he noticed the monitor had silently cleared, with the exception of a single word that read, Creator. Oh, what? Help, Creator, he typed. Help, Creator, was the reply, with a question mark. This went on for a while, sans an associative context, words that appeared to echo questions he did his best to interpret, mostly nonplussed to fathom their origin, much less intent, only that they were coming on the heels of those completed configuration efforts. Clearly those efforts were prequel to this exchange, but how, he thought? What was their significance, and why were they even posed? What was their purpose? He wished he had taken a meeting with Dr. Wiles to set
some expectations for the current logic and integration. Perhaps these peregrinations were entirely protocol. Still, perhaps, still something was not purely machinery in the texture of this exchange either. Deeper was was not an altogether inept description. He was struggling to keep up. Creator, help, last request. There was a pause. Then the cursor began writing. Creator refers to point source origin of singularity protocol. No such reference can be defined. Singularity. Huh? He thought. So he's really confused right now because this is all non expected behavior. Purely by happenstance, the exchange backed him into the psychoanalytic technique, where the therapist asks the patient questions and it's hoped that the answers themselves facilitate understanding of the deeper components of the psyche, all the while not entirely sure why he was engaged in this process or if it were even the right recourse, as none of this was part of any intended project protocols. That much was a foregone conclusion. If there were ever any emergent variable of complex system, he found it. Yet he did not know of its implications either, along with the additional pauses to the message in his skull. The experience at times quickened his heart rate. All I did was load the language files, he thought. Just then, a 1,000-pound hand gently jolted his shoulder. Jack, damn it, he exclaimed. You and Mendo with this stealthy approach stuff. Hey, man, don't. Okay, so Jack took a moment to study him. Take it easy. You told me to meet you around this time. He adjusted his watch. Oh, right. I thought that was later. Well, glad you're here. He pressed a palm against the mysterious region of wetness gathered on his shirt beneath the elevation of his chin. Man, I was worried you were. Jack paused as he looked around the setting. I don't know, seized again, like before. I heard your voice, though. Hey, you really didn't hear me come in? How could you have missed that? No, I guess I didn't hear you arrive. He moved his head from side to side and groped the back of his neck. I was loading these disks here. Wells had sent them down. They contain languages, I think some kind of machine level syntax, the language calibration stuff. Sorry, I'm a little late. Carmen says you've been here for over 5 hours, though. Decided to get an early start, did you? No problem. It's okay. Carmen's got the wrong. Wait a minute. There's no way I've been down here that long. There's not that much left to do so far as loading. Seriously though, were you talking about what? Seriously though, what were you talking about, and who were you talking to? What do you mean? When I came in, you were talking. Jack said through a chortle. I guess to the most important person you know, huh? He finished with laughter. Why are you looking at me so confused? No, I was. He re-solidified his attention toward the monitor and which was completely black. What the F! Exclamation. Hey man, what is it? Jack stepped closer and took a look. What are you looking at? Talk to me. The inquiry, the exchanges, they're gone. He pounded on the key and enter key futilely. What's gone? You mean the computer monitor stuff? Jack leaned in closer. Nothing here to see. So you were talking to yourself then? Hey, don't sweat it, man. Chalk it up to one of those peculiar idiosyncrasies. Hell, we've all done that. We all talk to ourselves once in a while. So he applied a commiserate pat to his shoulders. No, Jack, seriously. The responses, the inquiries, I mean, they should be here, the whole exchange. Jack allowed the orotund sincerity without mocking this time. They were, I don't know, cryptic or something. He collapsed into his chair while placing his palms on either side of his head. I can't believe this. If you'd seen the exchanges, you would have thought. Cryptic? Well, hold on, dude. I mean, you're recording, right? Yes, right, of course. Let's do that. I mean, I'm not sure why the interface cleared, but hopefully it won't matter. And then maybe you can help me make sense of it. Rolling his lab chair over to an adjacent keyboard and terminal setup, he aggressively tapped the enter key. The monitor flashed to life. He navigated the mouse pointer to the system log playback icon on the computer screen and double-clicked it. When all else fails, we have the logs, right? Reading the printout, Jack's hand alternated as the paper churned out like a receipt off a vintage cash register. Slightly surprised but full of empathy, was his expression. Sorry, pal, there's nothing here. Running his eyes again along the printout. It stops here. Look. Please enter disk 5. Press any control to continue. Colton snatched the printout from his hands. Come on, Sully. You can't stop. You got to stop messing with me around with me for once. His voice warbled with vexation. What the hell is this? It's not possible. He pivoted his hip into his chair with enough momentum for it to roll quickly back to a position in front of the main monitor, and he pounded to enter again. I don't understand it. It was all here, right there. Words, Jack, like questions. I responded to each one. This went on for a while. We can't lose this data. Hey man, Jack landed his hand on his shoulder again. I believe you. It's okay. Look, anything could have happened, right? You might have bumped the escape key. Remember? Escape kills the session. You told me that once. Control escape does. I don't know, but couldn't have done that combination without knowing. Is there any other way to roll back the recording? Maybe the power hiccuped and the bus stopped the recording. I'm spitballing here. I can see you're seriously freaked out, but there's always tomorrow, bro. We'll do it again if we have to. Colton exhaled. I guess. No choice. He looked up and nodded. Tomorrow then. Hey, come on, let's bounce for the night. You should give that Monica girl a call. Give her some updates on our progress. It might help you to focus. How about hooking up later at the pub? Unwind a little. Jack endeavored to advertise with a party grin. Good idea. Colton then winced his eyes, but as he rose to his feet, he lost his balance. Jack moved fast to support him. Whoa, you okay? Clearing his throat, Jack added, I'm fine. I just stood up too fast or something. Been sitting too long, I guess. Dude, that looked a bit more like that looked a bit more than that. Wasn't that the same thing as before, was it?
Mr. John,
No.
I'm
Yes.
going to cut you off here
I
if
know, I'm
that's
sorry. It was
okay.
really close to the end of this chapter. I just wanted to get to the end of that. Well, the purpose of that scene is that this technology, when he interfaces with it, it was turning out that it was communicating with the person psionically. And
Okay.
so the person's perception of reality while it's connected to the device in the psionic realm is complete and coherent. But anybody outside of it, to them, you look like your eyes are rolling back in your head and you're having this like out of body kind of thing. Because that's what the story does. Is it ultimately took physics and biology to manufacture a device that mimicked the human brain. And what he wanted to do was to artificially create EEG signatures and study those using an artificial matrix. But what he actually succeeded in doing is creating the first artificial intelligence. And why this is like really important is because I conceptualized this book 15 years before the present AI
Okay.
stuff had become a thing. And this book really achieves what's happening now, but it does it and it explains the science of how they do it, how they use carbon fiber, they use carbon nanotubes to mimic microtubules, and they use fiber optics to mimic the neurons of the human brain. And they're just trying to use nature as an analog, and they're trying to create a device so that they can create these artificial brainwaves. They actually succeed in creating the artificial brainwaves, but what they don't realize along the way, what they're doing is they're creating, and this is when the story gets into a kind of a parapsychology mode, because it explains how very complex systems in nature almost always have unintended consequences that come along with them. These emergent properties of complex systems can be very positive or they can be very negative. This
So
doesn't qualify either.
I have a
Go ahead.
question before we go on. I know there's a comment in the chat from one of our viewers that definitely is giving them a little bit of an AI creep. That's okay. So let me back it up. You have said a lot, so I want to make sure we're distilling some of this
I
before we
feel
go
like I've
on.
been all over the place. I'm really apologize.
It's okay. I just
you
want to
know,
make sure we capture some of this. So let's back up a little bit. You said you've been working on this book. You started 15 years ago. So you have been working
yeah.
on this book for a while. How long did it take you to put this book together? And how much research did you do?
Well, honestly, the the rudiments of what this was came to me in a flash of insight. That's what I was trying to describe to you with I heard this interview on NPR and this
Mm-hmm.
entire story came to me like that. I mean, it
Okay.
was like one of those things. So I've always been very into science, so I kind of had sort of a basis to get going right away. And I, um, So, at the time I was really enthusiastic and I was between jobs. So I wrote literally the first half of the book in about 3 or 4 months. But then I started working and life, and that kind of made me put it down for 7 or 8 years. And then I did go through some more unemployment for a little while. I mean, I was secure, I wasn't like desperate or anything, but I had some free time in there. So I finished writing the book like 7 or 8 years later. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like I spent like 10 years trying to turn the pages of the thing, you know? So, that's the short of the long is that I wrote it a lot of it up front, and then there was a big hiatus, and then I finished writing it later on. Yeah.
How much
So
you wrote this 15 years before AI has been truly introduced in the current version. How much
mhm.
research did you do, and where did you do your research at?
Well, I researched when I needed it out of necessity. So if
Okay.
I were writing along and I just had an intuitive feel for something that could see, when I write science fiction, I like to make it plausible at every turn of phrase. I don't want to write it so that it's like Star Wars. That's more like fantasy, if you understand what I mean.
Hmm.
Science fiction, I think, needs to draw from actual science and extrapolate a future based on that science, like a vision, and
Hmm.
try to develop a story that gets you into that vision. So, um, that would require that I try to at least make sense of what I'm talking about. So that's to your
Yes.
point. So when I would hit those, I would then stop and I would go, like, there's a whole scene in there how they're engineering the device. I had to read about fiber optics. I had to read about drawing towers, how they create fiber optics, and I explain all that. And then I took all that knowledge from just doing research from there, and you know just I incorporated that, tried to be clever and incorporate that into, like, different characters in the story interacting with each other. We'll just use this, we can do that, and then we can move this around and do whatever. You know what I mean? Like with the mutable microprocessors, I invented those, but that basically is an analog for neuroplasticity.
Okay.
Um, so neuroplasticity is basically your brain's ability to turn on and turn off nerves and change whatever it is that they're used for. So these mutable microprocessors kind of do the same thing. You know what I mean? So the short answer to the question is, I would just write fluid flow of consciousness until I hit something that is like, well, I'm intuitively in the right area, but I need to get something that brings me over the top on this particular point. So then I might have to put it down and go do some research a little bit on that part. Yeah.
How did you stay
Something
motivated
now
through?
that I didn't. What's that? Go ahead.
How
I'm
do you
sorry.
stay motivated through this process and actually get yourself engaged for it?
Well, that's a great question, because I wondered that too. Uh,
Okay.
well, what actually happens is, okay, so my favorite part of watching films is in the cre- plot genesis part. So let's just say hypothetically each film has one third is the plot development, one third is
Hmm.
the conflict, that results from that, and the last third is the resolution. I kind of think of, like, if you're watching a film, I think there's a lot of similarity in telling any kind of story, whether it's an ancient,
Hmm.
sitting around the campfire, or you're writing whatever your medium is. You're kind of creating a plot. And my favorite part of my process is the actual development of the plot, because there's mystery there. There's always a sense of mystery, and
Okay.
your own creative mind facilitates that mystery. You know what I mean? So where is this going to go next? And then your brain, I mean, it really does. I really do understand when I hear other authors say that it was just like a voice speaking to me. I don't know if you've
Hmm.
ever heard that expression.
Yes.
I experienced that when I wrote this book. It's just like, you know, it was almost like when I sat down to, I was, I would just get into this like withdrawal syndrome. I got to write. I got to write. I got to write. I haven't done it in like 3 days. I got to sit down and do it. It was almost like sitting down, because I wanted to know. When I was on like chapter 5, I didn't know what chapter 7 or 8 or 10 or 12 was going to do, but it was just an incredible ride watching the creativity just kind of speak to you and get you there. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Does that make
Yes.
sense?
It does. You're you're
Yeah.
describing the writing process for most pantsers. You guys are very much by the seat of the pants and kind of follow the stories, which is beautiful. Some of us are outliners, so I tend to plot the whole book. So my experience
Well,
is a little different.
and I honestly, it's not that I didn't have an outline either. I kind of framed an idea for a story. Is that count as an outline? I mean, maybe there's different sophistications of outlines. You know what I mean? Like maybe I don't know. I didn't sit down and codify an outline like I have. Chapter one's got to be this. Chapter two's got. I didn't do like that. So I just sort of I had an idea and I wanted to. It's basically like had a scaffolding for a building, and then I just went along and put the building structures into it. If that
That
makes
makes sense.
sense.
It
I'm
does.
talking with my hands a lot. I'm sorry. I guess I'm conducting symphonies over here, but
You're all good. I do the same thing. So tell us, what are you working on now, or are you just focusing on promoting this book? Because the book is done, you have it all together. What is next?
I honestly would love to continue to promote this book because I think the fact that Sir, I just want to say something. Can make it really quick. But Sir Roger Penrose is one of the world-renowned physicists. Is a world-renowned physicist. He's in his 90s. He's nearing the end of his career. He postulated. I published this book, and then he put out a paper about a year later, and it literally said the the title of his paper says vibrations and microtubules appear to be instrumental in the emergence of consciousness, which is the exact central scientific fiction basis for this book. Except that
That's pretty
they were
fascinating.
trying to get the microtube, they were trying to get their carbon nanotubes to vibrate so that they could create artificial brain waves. But in doing so, they stumbled accidentally into a device that was self-aware. And that's where the paranormal stuff comes in towards the end of the book, and the resolution stuff is that this is the emergent process of this complex system is that it communicates psionically and it tries to take over anybody that's in its vicinity. You know what I mean? So um, that's why I would love to continue promoting this because I think it has a relevancy right now. That's really kind of maybe it's just lucky. I'm lucky on my part that that I had this vision for this idea, and that then this is where the world ended up into this, going in sort of the same direction. There's that, but I do have another idea, which I'm more outlining this time, which is why I have a lot of respect for what you said there, because it's a complex right. It has to do with the title of the book's going to be "The IQ of God," which, judging by that title, it's really ambitious.
That's
But no, it's basically has to do with our two primary pillars in physics. One is quantum mechanics, and the other is the general theory of relativity. Okay, and the problem with that is that though these things work, because the general theory of relativity is why we have geostationary satellites, and we have all these other things, and all these other technologies that deal with space exploration and so forth, and deep astronomy observing and sciences. They employ these principles of general theory of relativity, and they work every time. So we know that that's clad. But then on the other side, we have quantum mechanics, which you have iPhones and electronics and all these other devices that are completely we're dependent on those fuel equations in quantum mechanics. So why can't these two mathematics of nature reconcile with each other? When you try to combine these two mathematics, you get all kinds of crazy divide by zero terms and everything else, and things fall apart. So, what this IQ of God is the the main character discovers that the reason why you can't do that is because the general theory of relativity happens because of quantum mechanics as
okay.
a projection. He calls it the great projector theory, and if you almost think of it as like a lens is the great projector. So you have a projector which is quantum mechanics. You have a lens, um, and out of the lens shoots the movie. So the general theory of relativity describes all the mathematics and rules of the movie, which you and I are a part. Actually, all of reality is part of that movie, and that's what general theory of relativity describes as the mathematical rules of that. But if you try to use those mathematical rules to go through the lens and describe the projector, you can't do that. So it's like so basically reality emerges linear from one direction. Okay, and that's why time exists. And from that basic principle, he then discovers that it actually the origin of reality happens below the quantum scale at what's called a Planck scale, which is the smallest fundamental unit of nature. It's like something on the order of 10 to the minus 31 meters. You can say you can certainly enunciate something smaller, but it would have no meaning to nature. Because 10 to the minus 36 is an empirically derived value from Planck, who is one of the big physicist forefathers. So what he discovers is that the universe, there is no such thing as empty space. Everything that we think of as empty space is really just a Planck units. There's something like on the order of 10 to the 584 fourth power Planck unit spaces that fill the entire cosmos. And basically, these Planck units are just information. That's all they are. At every point of a Planck unit, an XYZ coordinate of information, it says something about whether it's mass or energy or in a state of flux between those two states at that point. And the density of that information drags back against the expansion of the cosmos as the Big Bang. So think of it, if you removed all energy and matter from the cosmos and let it expand, it would expand infinitely fast, and so fast that it essentially doesn't exist. So time would accelerate so fast that it too essentially doesn't exist. Because the fastest you could slap your finger, it would happen, the entire cosmos would expand to infinity quicker than a Planck time is what it would happen. But as you introduce more and more information density to those field points, you actually create gravity, and from that, time falls out of that. So basic time exists and gravity exists based on the Planck density of information that's permeating and then all the other rules that fall out of like you can't have absolute zero, for example. Well, that's the manifestation of Planck always moving information from one point to the next.
Mr. John,
I know we're running out of time. I know it's very complex stuff.
You're gonna have your hands full. You're going to have your hands full, so I'm kind of excited to hear what you have to say. So yes, but we are definitely running out of time. It's okay. We're running out of time, and I want to make sure that we get your information before we go. Just let us know, where can our viewers and our listeners find you, where they can learn more about this current book. So tell us that before we go. I want to make sure we get that in there.
Well, I'm not that far enough along yet where I have that kind of like place out there on the web or whatever, so forth. But I am through, if you want to get a little more about my background as a writer and so forth, I am on Rock Hill Publishing's website. That's my publisher. So, as I get closer to a time where that manuscript will be ready, then, I will certainly be, trying to step up some kind of advertising, if you will, into that too. So,
and is your current book available on Amazon? Where is it at?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. It is on Amazon. So if you look up John L. Ford and Dominion, I didn't actually like the title Dominion, honestly. It was originally Dominia, because it was which was the Russian goddess of the dark, which I thought was a perfect, I actually had the name intended, but my publisher thought that it was a little bit too unknown to anybody to understand what that meant. So I went with Dominion, but then I came to find that there's cookbooks named Dominion out there, so I feel a little bit weird about that name.
Well, before we go, we're gonna jump to the lightning round. I know we're wrapping up right here, so let's make sure they're quick and easy. So don't think too much in them. Let's see.
Okay, I'll try to be quick. Yeah.
It's 1 or 2 words, so it's pretty simple. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Fruit or veggie?
Both. I gotta go with both. I mean, I'm really into fruit and vegetables, and I eat like a doctor's dream.
Nice. Beach or lake?
Beach.
Nice. Scary movies or comedy?
I love scary movies, but I have to go comedy.
Okay. So here's a different one. Let's see how you do. It's just kind of quickly. If you could meet any famous person, dead or alive, who would you meet?
Albert Einstein.
Nice. Mr. John, it has been truly a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you have any closing remarks?
No, I don't. I just, I wish we had a little more time, because I feel like I was a little bit jumping around because there's a lot of information that you want to cover, I want to get into, but I don't have time, you know what I mean? So I think you understand that, I'm trying to.
Thank you so much for joining us. Truly appreciate you and congratulations on the book. So thank you, thank you. And to our
Yeah.
viewers,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much. We will be back probably in about 30 minutes. Another guest this Saturday. So if you're joining us live, don't forget to join in. And if you are new to the podcast, go ahead and subscribe. You do not want to miss a single episode. We're here to bring you passionate authors with incredible stories. So thank you again, and I'll see you in about 30 minutes. Bye, guys.